Hi guys, as you see here, today I'm going to talk about the descending tracts. So descending tracts including pyramidal and extrapyramidal tracts. In my last video I focused on the vestibulospinal tract, one of the most important tracts of the extrapyramidal. Today I'm going to focus on the other extrapyramidal tract, which is called the Pontine Reticulospinal Tract. So reticular takes its name from the reticular formation because we have a spider net shaped structure in the brainstem, which is called the reticular formation. So in this image you can see the brain, right and left hemispheres. It's a coronal section. In the middle you can see the brainstem, and down here we have the spinal cord. Behind the brainstem you can see the cerebellum. So on the whole length of the brainstem, we have a structure. It's called reticular formation. So reticular formation, it looks like, as I mentioned earlier, it looks like a spider net shaped structure because it contains lots of neurons with long dendrites like spider net. So this Pontine Reticulospinal Tract starts at this level, the pons, the reticular formation of the pons. So as I mentioned in my previous video, descending tracts is comprised of two neurons, upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron. So where is the cell body of these two neurons, where they are synapsing to each other, and what is the function of the Pontine Reticulospinal Tract? So I'm going to answer all those questions one by one. So Pontine Reticulospinal Tract, the upper motor neuron cell body is here within the pons, the reticular formation of the pons. So imagine that this is the cell body of the upper motor neuron, and the axon exiting the nucleus, and then it runs all the way down to getting into the spinal cord. So what's going to do that when it gets into the spinal cord? If you take a cross section through the spinal cord, you can see this butterfly shaped gray matter at the center, which is surrounded by the white matter. Gray matter contains two anterior projections, also called ventral or anterior horn, and two posterior projections, so dorsal or posterior horns. Ventral horns, anterior horns, dorsal horns, posterior horns, and which is surrounded by the white matter. White matter contains different columns: ventral or anterior column, dorsal, posterior column, and lateral columns. So when the upper motor neuron axon getting into the spinal cord, it lands here. Imagine that it lands here at the ventral column, and then it gets into the ventral horn of the gray matter, synapses onto the cell body of the lower motor neuron. So the cell body of the lower motor neuron is within the ventral horn of the gray matter, and then axon exiting the ventral horn, passing through the ventral root to get into the muscles. So which muscles are supplied by the lower motor neuron of the Pontine Reticulospinal Tract? They are extensor muscles. So extensor muscles are supplied by the lower motor neuron of the Pontine Reticulospinal Tract. If you watch my video about the vestibulospinal tract, as its name suggests, it's coming from the vestibular nucleus of the brainstem, and the upper motor neuron axon landing next to the Pontine Reticulospinal Tract here in the ventral column. So it seems that Pontine Reticulospinal Tract is little brother of the vestibulospinal tract. Both of them landing here in the ventral column of the white matter, and both of them upper limb synapsing here onto the cell body of the lower motor neuron, and both of them supplying the extensor muscle or anti-gravity muscle. So the pontine reticulospinal tract helping the vestibulospinal tract to make the balance. When you are losing your balance, flexor muscles flexing your limbs and flexing your vertebral column, and you'll fall down and lose your balance. So these two tracts helping each other, supplying the extensor muscles of the limb, supplying the extensor muscles of the vertebral column to take the balance again. So which tracts or which part of the CNS stimulating the pontine reticular formation? So if you remember, we had some ascending tracts. When ascending tract going up to the upper centers or higher centers, they give off some collateral branches and stimulating the pontine reticular formation. So ascending tracts carrying the sensory information from the skin, from the joints, muscles, etc. So they stimulate and they give off some information from the environment to this pontine reticular formation, and they ask the pontine reticular formation to join the vestibulospinal tract to stimulate the extensor muscle to make the balance. Vestibulospinal tract and pontine reticulospinal tract, they are very, very pretty because they are controlling the extensor muscles to making your balance. So very pretty. Very starts with V, vestibulospinal starts with V, pretty begins with P, pontine starts with P. So this mnemonic helps you to memorize that these two tracts are controlling the sensor muscles to take your balance. So vestibulospinal and pontine reticulospinal tracts, they are very, very pretty.